Hello, and thank you for joining me. Today, we're returning to Fallout 76, where we're going to spend another 1,000 scrip on 3-star ranged legendary weapons. And as always, I'll go ahead and take a moment to talk about each weapon, about what makes it good, bad, or kind of mediocre. So let's go on ahead and dive right in and see what we get. So for our first roll, we got a Zealots Fat Man with plus 25% damage while aiming and breaks 50% slower. So the Zealots effect is, I guess I'd consider it pretty mediocre as far as the Assassin's effects go, because typically when you're trying to attack the normal Scorch, they are pretty squishy and you don't really even need a legendary weapon, especially something like a Fat Man, to take them down. Although you can get some benefit out of it because it does work against the Scorch Beasts and the Scorch Beast Queens, so there is some utility for it in that regard. I don't know that the Fat Man is really the weapon you'd want that on, because you're probably not going to be keeping that as your primary weapon, so yeah, definitely not a great first star combined with the weapon here. The plus 25% damage while aiming could actually be pretty good for a Fat Man, because if you choose to use VATS with the launcher weapons, then sometimes when you miss, your projectiles will go off into nothingness and you'll get not even the extra damage from the explosion, or just splash damage, I'm sorry, from the explosion, not the extra damage. So that's a bit of a drawback when using VATS sometimes. So if you prefer to aim down the sights when you're using a launcher weapon like the Fat Man, then the plus 25% damage while aiming is great. It's just 25% more damage, and when you consider the base damage of the Fat Man to begin with of 851, that's pretty good. I think that's the base damage. It's probably not. I do have some mutations and things like that, but it's still very high. So anyway, that's going to be a solid bonus. And breaking 50% slower, it's not my favorite third star for most weapons, but at the same time, it's a solid third star because I don't think anybody really likes repairing their weapons, so having to do it less frequently is definitely a good thing. But I don't know that the second and third star really make this weapon worth keeping around, especially considering how heavy it is. So let's go on ahead and move on to the next one and see what we get. And here we got an Exterminator's short combat rifle with bullets exploding for area damage and 15% faster reload. So it's kind of unfortunate that we got the Exterminator's effect as the first star, because the second and third star are actually very good on this weapon. Bullets exploding for area damage is just extra damage, plus some area damage to enemies that happen to be close enough. They have to be pretty close, but you'll still see some benefit from that. And then 15% faster reload is an excellent third star, because reloading your weapon faster just increases your DPS, your damage per second. So those two are very good. The Exterminator's effect, unfortunately, is probably, I don't know, probably tied or slightly above the worst. Maybe it's worse than the Hunter's effect, because at least the Hunter's effect hits Scorch Beasts. So the Exterminator's effect only hitting Mirelurks and bugs, there's just not really that many times in the game when you're going to be going out of your way to find Mirelurks and bugs to kill. Sure, there's going to be times when you're going to run across them and kill them, but I don't know that it's really worth keeping a weapon around specifically for that purpose. So unfortunately, this thing's pretty mediocre. I could see, a lower level player using a weapon like this for a while until they got their hands on something better, just because the second and the third star are good. But yeah, let's go on ahead and move on to the next one and see what we get. And here we got a Mutant's Short Western Revolver with plus 50% limb damage and plus 1 perception. So the Mutant's effect, it's not as bad as it used to be. It used to be just a straight 10% if you were mutated at all. When they did the legendary effect rebalancing, it became 5% mutation per mutation, up to a maximum of 5 mutations for 25% damage. The bonus to that is kind of low when you compare it to things like Aristocrats and Junkies that are giving plus 50%, and of course Bloodied that gives even more, depending on how low your health is. So at the same time, you are not really likely to be giving up all that much to have the benefit from the Mutant's effect, because most players, high-level players anyway, in my opinion, or at least as far as I can tell, are likely to have probably at least 4 or 5 mutations by the time you have Marsupial, Speed Demon, probably either herbivore or carnivore, whichever you prefer, and, you know, another mutation or two that suits your build particularly well. So you're not really giving up much of anything, so that's a good thing, but you're just not getting a huge benefit, so pretty mediocre, not bad, not great. The plus 50% limb damage is unexciting. In my opinion, if you want to cripple something, you're much better off focusing on using the perks that give your weapon the ability to cripple things. It's just going to be much more reliable and quicker, in my opinion. So, really, the second star there largely does nothing, in my opinion. So the +1 perception, that can be pretty good on a weapon like this because the pistols in this game are a bit underpowered, so you're likely, if you're using them, you're likely going to be wanting to use VATS to target the weak points and get some extra damage from criticals. So having the extra +1 perception makes your VATS shots a little bit more accurate, not a lot more, but a little bit, and every little bit counts there. So it's not exciting, but it's, you know, not the worst thing ever. So overall, though, I would call this one pretty much a dud. It's kind of on the low side of mediocre, I guess, but yeah, not exciting. Let's go ahead and see what else we can get. And here we've got a Zealot's short 10mm submachine gun with plus 50% VATS hit chance, and hits having a chance to generate a stealth field. So the Zealot's effect we talked about earlier, it's the same things here, except you might get a little bit more benefit from the Zealot's effect when facing normal Scorched with a weapon like this because its damage per shot is a little bit lower per bullet. So getting some extra damage against those Scorched might actually be enough to put it over the top for a 1-shot or 2-shot kill instead of a 2- or 3-shot kill. So that's a good thing, but again, not particularly exciting. Yeah, you know, obviously it still works with the Scorch Beast and Scorch Beast Queen, but I still think you'd be better off overall with a better first star. The plus 50% VATS hit chance, that's one of my favorite second stars because it basically just increases your damage output by making sure that you are hitting your target successfully when you're using VATS to target the weak points, such as the head or, you know, the thruster on the Mr. Handy or Gutsy, the fusion cores on the sentry bots, and so forth. So that's a great thing. It also does actually increase the effective range of the weapon, in my opinion, beyond the range on the range card because it offsets the accuracy penalty from that range. You'll still see the penalty to damage beyond that range, which is 50% for most weapons, 90% for shotguns, something to keep in mind there. But even so, sometimes it's still worth being able to get some amount of damage in when the enemy's at that range, even if it's not your full amount. So there's some benefit there. And then hits having a chance to generate a stealth field. Well, this is the kind of weapon that you can put a suppressor on and use in stealth, so may as well get some benefit from that, although I really think that if you're having trouble staying in stealth, your best bet is to focus on perks and chameleon armor if you are a full health build, or a good set of unyielding armor if you are a low health build. Either of those should give you everything that you need to be able to stay stealthy effectively. So kind of a little bit of a do-nothing third star, but you know, you could have some benefit from it. But overall, again, pretty mediocre. Let's go on ahead and see what else we get. Alright, well this one's pretty much just bad. We got a Berserker short Western revolver with replenishing action points with each kill and 90% reduced weight. So the Berserker's effect is it's not a bad effect, but it's definitely not one of my favorites just because it doesn't have a lot of support. The Bloodied effect has a lot of perks and even a mutation that helps benefit you from that and helps you stay alive. You know, things like Serendipity and Nerd Rage in the perks area, and then you've got the Adrenal Reaction mutation. All those really help to make the Bloodied build very strong. The Berserker's build doesn't have anything like that, and it's a lot harder to stay alive in this game with no armor at full health than it is to stay alive with good armor and good perks at low health. So Berserkers is really kind of lacking in that regard. It's a cool idea, but it it needs some support to be implemented effectively. The replenishing action points with each kill, that is probably the best thing about this weapon, other than the fact that it's not going to take up a lot of weight in my stash box until I put it in the Scrip bin again. But replenishing action points with each kill is a good thing, especially on a pistol. We talked about them being a little bit underpowered, so being able to get some more action points every time you kill something is going to help keep you using VATS effectively, because you'll have AP to do so, and keep your damage output high while using a weapon like this. So that's a good thing, and the 90% reduced weight is mostly lost on a weapon like this because it's already a pretty lightweight weapon to begin with, and once you mod it out, you're going to be losing most of the benefit of that effect on this weapon, so it's not doing a whole lot for you, but it is for me because I'll just put it in my stash box until I've got really nothing else good to put in the Scrip box. So let's go on ahead and move on to the next one. And here we've got a Juggernauts Gatling Laser with VATS critical hits doing plus 50% damage and plus 50 damage resistance while aiming. So the Juggernauts effect is kind of the opposite of the Bloodied effect. It gives you extra damage at full health, but unfortunately that bonus is only 25% at full health, and that's only when you are at 100% full health. You know, even picking up a few rads will knock you off of that full 25%. And even when you're not, picking up rads, maybe you're using power armor, which would be likely if you're using a weapon like this, even taking a little bit of damage is going to knock you off of it. So you're probably very rarely going to see that full benefit unless maybe you're a stealth build and not getting attacked a whole lot. So it's really not one of my favorite first stars at all. It's good in concept, and if they did it a little bit more like a true reverse of Bloodied, where, maybe it was 80% at 100%, and then, the lower you got, the low on your health bar, the lower bonus it got until like you got down to 20% health where it didn't provide any bonus at all, then it would be a lot more desirable, I think. But as it stands right now, it's just lacking. The VATS critical hits doing plus 50% damage, that's a very strong effect, but this is probably not the weapon that you want it on, because with the fire rate that this weapon has, it's going to choose through your AP bar very, very quickly, and you're going to have to spend a lot of time either free aiming this weapon with by hip firing it or aiming it down the sights. So really that second star is kind of lost on a weapon like this. It's a very good second star, just not here really. The plus 50 damage resistance while aiming, it's not my favorite third star at all, but it could be pretty good on a weapon like this, just because this is, like I say, the kind of weapon that you're probably going to be doing a lot of either hip firing or aiming down sights. When I use heavy weapons, I prefer to aim down sights. That's just my play style. Different people prefer different things, and that's fine. But if you are the type of player who likes to aim down sights like I am when you're using a heavy weapon, then you're just going to get plus 50 damage resistance for doing what you normally do, and that's not a bad thing. But it's also not a huge benefit either. So overall, this one is once again pretty mediocre, so let's go on ahead and see what else we can get. And this one was almost better. We've got an Aristocrats Ultrasight Gatling Laser with bashing damage increased by 50% and 25% less VATS AP cost. So the Aristocrats effect is one of the better effects for full health builds, because all you have to do is keep 32,000 caps on your character and you'll be seeing plus 50% base damage of the weapon. That's a very strong effect. It's right up there with Junkies, and as far as full health builds go, there's nothing that gives more than 50%. So yeah, and once you get into the late game and you've bought most of the plans and things like that from the various vendors that you want to own, then keeping 32,000 caps on your character becomes pretty easy for the most part. I tend to spend my caps pretty freely because I often need some resources or something like that real quick, even if it's just for a video or for building or something like that. So I'm not necessarily the best example of that, but for many players I know that that is the case. And then the bashing damage increased by 50% is where it begins to get disappointing. The bashing damage in this game is overall disappointing. So adding 50% damage to that isn't really doing a whole lot. If you're talking about a minigun with the Shredder mod, then that second star with bashing damage is very good. On pretty much any other weapon in the game, it's basically like not having a second star, unfortunately. So, very, like I say, very disappointing here. And then 25% less VATS AP cost. Again, this is the kind of weapon that, because of its high fire rate, it's going to chew through your AP pool, your AP bar very, very quickly. You'll get, obviously, a little bit more benefit, or a little bit more shots out of your VAT shot usage out of this weapon with that third star, but I don't think it will really be enough to make this weapon truly a VATS capable weapon. So, once again, a bit disappointing here. The first star is very good. The second and the third, not so good, at least for this weapon. So, let's go on ahead and try it again. And here we've got something, again, a little bit disappointing. We've got an AntiArmor Gatling Plasma with plus 50% VATS hit chance and your VATS critical meter filling 15% faster. So the AntiArmor effect is one of the stronger effects in the game. It works well whether your build is full health or low health, and something that's worth noting is that the AntiArmor effect will compete with the bloodied effect for damage for most weapons for low health builds. So it's just very good. Unfortunately, the second and the third star on this weapon suffer from the same problem that the stars on the last weapon, or the third star on the last weapon, suffered from. It's not really a VATS weapon. You can use this weapon in VATS a little bit more than the others because its fire rate is much lower, but you're still going to burn through your AP bar very, very quickly, and it's just, you're going to have to spend a lot of time aiming down the sights or hip firing, depending on what you prefer. Now, you can definitely, use VATS as well and just use those to supplement when your AP runs out, and that's a perfectly valid way to play if that's what you enjoy, but I don't think there's a lot of players running around doing that, so the extra VATS hit chance is probably not doing a whole lot on this weapon, and neither is the VATS critical meter filling 15% faster. So, overall, this one, I could see, again, a lower player using it for a while because the first star is very good, but once you get something better, this one is probably going to be passed on or put in the script bin. So, let's go on ahead. We've got two more. Let's see what we can get here. And here we've got an Exterminator's Short Flamer with VATS critical hits doing plus 50% damage and 15% faster reload. So this one's not bad. It's not amazing, but the Exterminator... Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking this was Executioners, not Exterminators. So it's definitely not as good as I was originally thinking there. The Exterminator's effect, once again, I don't know that you're really going to keep a weapon like this, especially considering how heavy it is, around just for the occasional time that you're going to be hunting down mirelurks and bugs. So, yeah, I mean, it's a solid effect, but just it doesn't have a lot of utility in the game. The VATS critical hits doing plus 50% damage. Once again, this is probably not the kind of weapon that you're going to be using in VAT, so it's probably not doing a whole lot for you there. Making the third star 15% faster reload, probably the best star on this weapon, and 50% faster reload is definitely one of the better third stars all around. It's good on pretty much any weapon because increasing your reload, or improving your reload speed, is just going to increase your damage per second overall, and on heavy guns especially because they tend to have slow reload times, so being able to reload them faster is especially good. So overall, pretty unexciting on this one. I'd call it a dud just because the faster reload is really the only good thing on it. So let's go on ahead and see what we get for our last one. Maybe we'll get something good. What do we get? We do not get something good. We get a Nocturnal Short Gatling Gun with plus 50% limb damage and 90% reduced weight. So the Nocturnal effect is not as bad as it used to be because it no longer gives the debuff during the day, so at least during the daytime the weapon will be doing as much damage as a non-legendary version of the weapon would be doing. But you're not getting any damage bonus from that first star during the day. Now, if you're the kind of player who will remember to switch weapons with in-game day and night, then the nocturnal bonus is pretty strong, and it might be worth keeping a weapon, especially like this around, especially considering it has the 90% reduced weight, for that purpose. I am not that kind of player, so it's not going to be useful to me. And then, unfortunately, the plus 50% limb damage is just not doing a whole lot, like I say. I think if you want to cripple things, you're better off with the perks that give you a chance to cripple things rather than trying to rely on this second star here. So, overall, this one I'm going to go ahead and chalk up as a dud. Didn't really get anything good today, but we'll be back next week. Remember, if you enjoy content like this, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel out, and it doesn't cost you any money. And as always, thank you for watching.